When working with clients across borders, communication is key, but it can also be quite a challenge, especially if you're not working with someone whose first language is English. Although even first language English, there's kind of cultural nuances and that sort of thing. So we're going to dive into in this episode navigating cultural differences, and seeing as we're navigating things, we're going to navigate time zones as well. So let's talk about adapting communication styles. Shay, do you have any words of wisdom on how to communicate with an international client?
So I think it's just about firstly being aware that we do all speak differently, and depending, I mean, even across, I suppose, the country that you live in, different regions will have different dialects and phrases, etc. So, I think of when I travel with my mom and we go overseas somewhere, and she'll say things that are so South African, and then she'll be like, "Oh, these people are so unfriendly. They just ignoring me. They don't." I'm like, "Mom, they have no idea what you are saying." So I think firstly just being aware of the fact that we all do speak differently, and certain phrases belong in certain regions, and sometimes you might need to adjust your accent. You might need to say water instead of water, or whatever it may be. So I think having that awareness, I work quite a lot with a US client, and I constantly have to check myself for, things that we say differently, like the trunk of the car versus the boot of the car. And I think it's language we all, especially when it comes to the States, we've all been made aware of it because we consume a lot of US media. So, sometimes you have to check yourself and remember to use that language. But so I think having that awareness, firstly, and then making a conscious effort to speak in that person's language, because you're the freelancer. You might argue they need you more than you need them, but you do need them. So I think it's important to meet them where they are and make it as seamless as possible for them to work with you, because they might have had some hesitations or objections about working with someone across borders for those very reasons. So I go over and beyond to make sure that my communication is clear to them, which works sometimes, not all the time, but it's definitely just something that I'm very conscious of.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, as writers, really, we should be kind of reducing the messaging to. Well, let me give you an example. Would it be possible to please help me gather some resources, rather just say, I need X. So,
Correct.
take any kind of room for interpretation out of the message, even if it is a first language speaking person that you're dealing with. Not only will it kind of streamline your communication, but it does take out any room for interpretation of what you're actually trying to say or ask them. So that would be my number one tip. And number two tip regards feedback. So obviously, being a freelancer, we are at the mercy of the the feedback gods. And when we're speaking across borders, we have to remember that some people come across abruptly, but it's just like a language style or a cultural difference. So if you're dealing with someone in the Middle East, they can come across as very hard and abrupt. So listen to the message, not the tone that it's being delivered in, because it's very easy to get your back up and be like, these people, blah blah blah. But it's often they are asking a relevant question or pointing out a relevant point or piece of feedback, and you're letting that kind of emotion get in the way. So that would be my number two tip: is to just listen to the message, not the tone it's delivered in, because that is it's opening yourself up to get upset over something that probably doesn't need to get upset about.
And focus on the job at hand. You don't need to necessarily be best friends with every single one of your clients. It's about getting the job done at the end of the day. So, if it's someone who, from a cultural point of view, isn't someone you'd always see eye to eye with or seek their company, that's fine. They're a client. Get the job done.
And kind of look at it from a diversity perspective. I mean, if if you're into like the corporate world and that kind of thing, everyone wants diversity because that's where ideas come from, et cetera, et cetera. But as soon as the diversity gets real, you are like, I want to deal with people like me. Look at it as this is going to sound so kind of cliche, but look at it as a learning opportunity, an opportunity to grow and take constructive feedback, even if it's being delivered in a non-friendly way,
Mm.
or a tone that is kind of making you feel a bit gross. So yeah, look at it as a learning opportunity to develop like a little bit of a tougher skin and focus on the message. You're going to refine your communication skills by doing that as well.
That's good advice.
Yeah. So that's the language side of things. The other big kind of challenge, I suppose, when dealing with international clients is time zones. And in the last episode, I've made it clear that I work in my own time zone. I freelance, which people think that, oh, well, you just work a little bit here, a little bit there. You've got all this free time. Your services and time are both in the name freelance, which of course they are not. But yeah, because I am working for myself, I don't want to be working at like 9 o'clock at night. I want to be working when I'm most productive, which is in the morning. So yeah, I don't want to be working with a US client that is expecting me to sit in a meeting at like 2 o'clock in the morning, South Africa time. So that's how I qualify my clients. I know that you've got clients in the US. How do you deal with those time zone differences?
So, I mean, you mentioned the free and freelance. Well, the free also does allow you, it does allow you to have those out of office kind of hours that you can choose. So, me too. I do my best work in the morning. I prefer not to be doing anything sort of after 5 p.m. if I can help it. With a US client, I do sometimes have to attend meetings in those times. So what I do is I do the work in my working hours in the morning, but occasionally when we do have to have a meeting, once or twice a week, then it is in those after hours times. But I have a relationship with my client that's good enough that we both know that the earlier for them is better for me. So,
Mm, mm,
they try to be as accommodating as possible. And then I do the same, knowing that
yeah,
I can't expect them to be having meetings at, 5 a.m. their time. So we make it
yeah,
work.
yeah.
Um, at the moment, a new challenge for me is that having a little one, and I don't know how this is going to evolve. My time isn't as free as it once was. So, in the last few months, I've had to call on friends, and because my husband gets home quite late, so friends, mom, that kind of thing to stand in when I have the meetings. So I'm still working it out, and it's not ideal. But I know that my client appreciates the work I do, and we have a good relationship that I want to keep going. So we make it
Yeah.
work. And then I try to sell the time difference as sort of a competitive differentiator. Like, why choose someone in South Africa versus in the US? Well, because I can have your deadlines with you before you've even woken up.
Mm,
And from my side, another benefit is that if I have work that's due the following day in the States, if I don't get to it that day, I can do it in my morning and they're still getting it early in their day. So it also allows me some flexibility with deadlines.
yeah, yeah. Where in the States are they? Because the States is a big place. And I mean,
True.
East Coast and West Coast times are wildly different. So, are they based more kind of west that you have like super late meetings?
More east. So
Oh,
actually,
okay.
5 p.m. meetings, even 3 p.m. meetings sometimes, depending on the time zone. I mean, on the
Mm,
what's called daylight savings.
yeah, yeah. And random, let's go down this little rabbit hole quickly. We spoke about COVID in the previous episode and how it kind of has opened up the international market for freelancers. COVID did kind of normalize the I've got a crying baby on my lap during this meeting. But I know that we have had to pull that back a little bit. So in terms of the professionalism, what did you call them?
Friends.
Clients. Yeah.
Yeah.
Friend clients. Is that not something from a professional level? Are you just not at that level where you can have a crying baby on your lap anymore?
So the
asking for a
crying baby
friend.
has it has been on the lap. So fortunately, we are at that friend level, and I think at the end of the day, it's also about finding ideally those kind of clients who appreciate the work that you do, so they know that regardless of what's, and that's also on you to produce. So regardless of what's going on in your personal life, you're delivering the work, and if you're delivering the work, nothing else really matters. So, it's having that kind of perspective, and not all clients see it like that. But I'm grateful for those who do.
Now, another question, and this is not necessarily just for international clients, but there's that well-worn cliche of out of sight, out of mind. So unless your international client becomes a repeat client and you're regularly doing work for them, there has to be some sort of follow-up or marketing involved to keep in contact and keep you top of mind for them. How do you deal with that sort of thing? Building long-term relationships with somebody who is like a million miles away.
So first step is, as you say, maintaining that relationship over email. So just making a note in your calendar to check in every, depending on the type of work, every X month, to say, I've got a gap in my schedule last time, and remind them what you did for them last time, remind them of any results you achieved, etc. So it was great to work with you to X, and Y. I have some capacity and I would love to work with you again, kind of thing, once every few months.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, to make sure that you follow them on LinkedIn or connect with them on LinkedIn, because that also keeps you top of mind. They can see, oh, okay, Shay's still around. It's a subconscious thing, but it works. And you could even add them if you do some kind of email newsletter to keep them top of mind, to keep you top of mind in an email newsletter. But to be honest, I think the personal email and them seeing, even if they never engage with any of your content on LinkedIn, just they'll see your name come up and they'll be reminded that you're active and out there. And also, I mean, the best thing you can do is actually just do an outstanding job for them the first time, and then they know who they can go to when they need a job done and they need someone reliable. Do you have anything bad?
Yes, all of those. And then depending on the kind of personality, I suppose, whether you gel as people, sending them a happy birthday message, that always works quite well. And what I've found works really well is if you've had a conversation with a client about, even if it's something work related, well, hopefully it's work related, even if it's something personal, and you come across something like an article or a video that is related to that thing that you kind of had like an off chance conversation about, pop it through to them and say, I saw this, I remember we chatted about XYZ and this reminded me of you. So it's that kind of remember me because I'm remembering you kind of vibe.
Yes.
So yeah, all of the reach outs, sales newsletters, etc. But putting that personal touch on with remembering, like you said, remember that we are human. They are human. Like treat them like a human being. So yeah, that would be my kind of add on to that.
Yeah, and you've actually just made me think of something else I do is at the end of every year, I go through my time tracker, and every single client that I've done some work for, I send like a festive season message with a little corny gift greeting card kind of thing. Again, same thing. Just so I'm in their inbox, they've reminded that I've done some work for them, and it's just a little chance to reach out. And I do a personalized message to each one, not just a standard copy paste.
Yeah, not an elf yourself video.
Those are great though.
Cool. So we want to hear from you guys. How do you maintain long distance relationships? Like with romantic relationships, they are quite difficult to maintain. So we're always looking for tips. Please tell us in the comments. Sorry, Shay, were you asking a question?
Shay has one more thing to say. I'm sorry, mid wrap up. Just because we were talking about cultural sensitivity and end of year cards, please remember that not everyone celebrates the same holidays in the same way as you do. Thank you.
Yeah. Just season's greetings. Or there was that kind of meme that was a grumpy leprechaun holding a turkey and a Christmas tree, and it was like, happy fucking everything, now leave me alone. Just send them that. Cool. So pop us a DM, pop us a note in the comments. We'd love to know how you reach out and maintain international client relationships. And share that with the freelancing community. Let's grow the community and try and help each other out. Don't forget to subscribe, and we will see you in the next episode.